So good afternoon here from the 5th edition of ESFE. Today we're joined by Ms. Faiza Mirza. We're so thankful to have you here today, ma'am.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.
So ma'am, getting right into it, how does WACE's assessment system work? What ensures that it is fair, consistent and aligned with the real skills?
Right. So just to set the context right, WACE, as in the Western Australian Certificate of Education, is an Australian board governed by a statutory authority that reports directly to the ministers. The main criteria here for assessment is extremely child-centric. We're not talking about memorization and then writing examination based on that memorization. It is not very content-driven, and the end goal is not for a child to perform well in any one examination and get the marks and that kind of cycle. So what really breaks it is the right kind of focus on the two aspects. One is inquiry, wherein the child is inculcated with some very, very important and necessary life skills to be able to ask the right questions. And those questions then drive the facilitator to model the classroom accordingly. So it's a child-driven pedagogy. It's a child-driven kind of a format, right? The teachers simply act as facilitators, as mentors to assist the child in those learnings. So naturally, it involves a lot of hands-on experiences, hands-on experiments, a lot of group work, a lot of discussions, which form a large part of the assessments and outcomes, right? So what are assessments? We are gauging outcomes, right? How do you gauge outcomes? Whatever you are doing in implementing a lesson plan or implementing a particular way of teaching, what are you getting out of it? So WACE does not really have specific subjects from grades 1 to 10, they're learning areas. And to measure the outcomes of those learning areas, there are two ways in which children are assessed. One is how are they performing in all of these hands-on, very immersive experiences, group discussions, project work, all of those things. And then the other half is how are they actually writing them down or in a pen to paper format of examination, right? So it's a half and half. It's not entirely that, it's not entirely this. There's a beautiful balance of the two, and that ties the whole thing together at the end of the year, when they write those examinations.
That's a perfect summary. And to kind of make this a concise answer, to summarize what you've just mentioned about how it's a child-driven strategy, what would you say are the core values that drive this philosophy that WACE holds?
See, like I said, it's very important. There's a beautiful framework that Western Australia follows, all of Australia follows actually. It's a federal framework. It's called EYLF, Early Years Learning Framework, right? And the three core values of the framework are being, belonging, and becoming. So you need to belong to where you are from, what are your roots, what is your, in Hindi you say pehchan. Aapki pehchan kya hai?
Identity.
Your identity. Who do you and where do you and what do you belong to, right? What is your, self-awareness level or being? Being a good human, being a person, a good person. And, forming your connections with your world around. So your world, for a child, the world essentially to begin with is just mother, father, and then, the immediate family. And the child goes out from that environment to a school environment where the world and the relationship grows to teachers and friends and things like that, right? So now the child is being forming other relationships as well, right? And then eventually becoming your own person. So those are the three core values, and they are all child-centric. So all your learnings, everything revolves around these core values.
I think it's also very important to embed these values so that they're future ready for the real world.
Absolutely.
So moving forward, what does a typical learning experience look like for a WACE student, including critical thinking?
Yeah. I think it's extremely fun when I think of a WAIS classroom and I picture students in a WAIS classroom. Firstly, it's the energy of the classroom. And I think when you let the children lead is when the energy changes, because that is when the real ideas emerge. And we're not asking them to shut down or tone down. We are, like I said, facilitating the process of coming up with ideas, asking the right questions, asking as many questions as possible, because the answer lies somewhere in between. The more questions the children ask, the more critical thinking ability, analyzing abilities are forming, from a very, very young age. So I always talk about the energy of the classroom, which has to be led by the child or children, and also the way the teacher is responding to it. So you have to have the equal energy for the teacher as well to meet with that burst of energy, right? And then together they create magic. So lot of experiments, lot of conversations, lot of exchange of ideas, group work, not sticking to just the regular curriculum textbooks. There are no textbooks. They don't prescribe textbooks. We don't need textbooks, right? There's a lot of learning that happens with the environment. So to learn a simple, concept of, say, photosynthesis, you simply take the children and walk out of the classroom and go into the garden, and you be with the plants and be with the, the real experience of showing them what it looks like and how it works and, things like that. But then along with that, there is so many other learnings happening, so many other skills are developing, whether it's collaboration, whether it's coordination, whether it's communication. So it's multidisciplinary, it's intradisciplinary, and a WAIS classroom is full of ideas.
That's truly beautiful. That's something that we would look forward to in the future classes, right?
Right.
As you mentioned that there's no textbooks that are prescribed. Mm-hmm. Of course, with that fact in itself, there might be a couple misconceptions or doubts that might arise, especially in the Indian context. How would you say that this could be implemented in the Indian context?
Right.
Trying to avoid any hassle.
So when I say no textbooks, what I really mean is that we cannot be dependent on content. Right? So it cannot be textbook driven or content driven kind of a curriculum. Textbooks, if the schools need, as a supplement to assist teachers, because unfortunately we're all very used to that kind of supplementation, right? So if that is needed and the teachers need to use it, yes, by all means use it, but don't get dependent on that. For Indian context, I always like to say that I think WAIS very beautifully understands, and also by virtue of being a government board, they're extremely sensitive to what a country needs more than children. And I think for our country, it's very important that our children stay rooted, stay grounded, understand their culture, understand their values before they move on to any Western, Australian, international kind of education, right? So while we are talking about international education, for me, international education is not Westernization. For me, international education is embracing your own identity and understanding it from a larger perspective. So talking about flexibility aspect, I think they beautifully understand the value of Indian history. Why children should understand Indian history, regional histories, their own roots, geography, social studies. Why will a child be interested in learning Australian history or geography? You're living in India, you're living in Bombay. You would want to learn, your history, your Maratha history, all of those things. Languages. We're living in a country of multiple beautiful languages, regional languages. Schools must teach regional languages. And WAIS, is very happy to endorse it. In fact, WAIS already has Tamil, Hindi and Punjabi curriculum in place. So I think it only makes sense for schools to understand that, adapt that, and not lose the core essence of where they belong, and give children the understanding of the importance of their roots.
So moving forward, looking at a little bit of the larger picture, how does WAIS help and assess students for university admissions and easing that process, making it more scalable?
Yeah. So I think we need to understand one very, very important thing here is that WAIS is a government board, right? So when you become a student of WAIS and when you finish WAIS in grade 12, you essentially come out with a government certification, right? And you also have a rank, which is called the Australian Tertiary Admission Rank. It's called ATAR. There are some ATAR courses that you should have taken in your grades 11th and 12th, essentially 12th. English being a compulsory, we always suggest that English should be the compulsory one. Because now remember, you are a student registered with the government of Australia. So in the outside world, you're treated like an Australian student, right? You have ATAR score, which is your admission rank. So it's like a country rank. That rank is acceptable globally. And what it does in the admission process is, globally, it eliminates or waves off in a lot of universities in the US the requirement of SATs, because you don't need SATs. Your ATAR score is valid and acceptable. You also don't need to give the English proficiency tests, because largely Indian students have to give English proficiency tests because we don't come from an English-speaking country. But once you are registered with the government of Western Australia, you are representing, you're a student of an English-speaking country, right? So that requirement gets eliminated and you don't no longer have to give the English proficiency test. So those two for global examinations, global universities and admissions, right? For India, the fact that it has the equivalence and it is recognized by the AIU, Association of Indian Universities, makes it valid for all Indian universities to accept WAIS students in Indian colleges and universities.
I've learned so much in just that one answer that you've given me. So I think having these conversations is also very important.
Oh yes.
How do you think that providing a platform such as ESFE is providing this medium for having these conversations is enabling the future?
So while WAIS has received equivalence very recently in India and launched only last year, what's very important is to create that awareness of its existence now in India, right? Everybody knows about the other international boards. They've been around for a while. I must tell you though that after 25 odd years, the Association of Indian Universities has given equivalence to any other board in the country. So this is the first international government board to have received equivalence in the country, right? That's one. So that awareness needs to be created. People need to know about it. People need to understand this, right? So I think for that, platforms like this is just the right platform. You have the reach, you have people who know you. We want to be heard in that audience. So I completely, agree that these are the kind of platforms we want to be on and heard on.
Thank you so much for your time today, ma'am. It's an honor to be having a conversation with you.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.
Mark your calendars. October 6th, 7th and 8th. NESCO, Mumbai, the center of the educational universe.